All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Look, love is absolutely the beautiful starting point of any relationship. But today, we're focusing on the actual road ahead. We're not just talking about the wedding day, the flowers, the cake, the whole shebang. We're talking about the decades of shared life that follow. We're looking at how to transition from just hoping things work out to making a truly informed, clear-eyed commitment. And that brings us to a core truth we need to anchor ourselves to right out of the gate. Marriage doesn't magically fix or create your habits. Actually, it's quite the opposite. The proximity of a shared life brings literally everything you already do right up to the surface. It reveals and intensifies your patterns. So preparation, it's really just about seeing what's already there before it hardens into place. Think of it like planning a big road trip into the mountains. Now, trusting the mood of the moment and blasting a great playlist will definitely get you somewhere, and it's a lot of fun. But preparation is what actually equips you for those steep drops and sudden weather changes. You still need to know how the vehicle handles, right? Preparation doesn't take away the adventure of the journey. It just makes it understandable and safe. So let's redefine what counseling actually is. A lot of folks hear that word and immediately assume something's broken, like it's some sort of triage tool for a failing relationship. But it's not. It is simply practical preparation for reality. You aren't trying to perfectly predict the future with a crystal ball. You're just making sure your vehicle is ready for the road, noticing those little squeaks and rattles before they become fixed, expensive problems. Which brings us to our first huge realization. Invisible, so-called normal expectations create unseen pressure underneath a beautiful exterior. Think about a house. You can have fresh, gorgeous paint on the walls, but man, if the plumbing is leaking behind that drywall, you've got a massive problem. Your expectations, whether they're about independence, closeness, or household roles, they act as that invisible floor plan, and everyone ends up living inside them, whether they realize it or not. Because marriage, at its core, is a massive decision-making system. Every single day, you're coordinating a barrage of choices. Just look at the reality of this shared life. You have to agree on how money is spent. Is one of you a total saver while the other just loves to swipe the card? You have to figure out when to visit family, especially around those crazy, stressful holidays. You've got to navigate the work-life balance, get on the same page about raising kids, agree on what actually counts as an emergency, and even figure out who speaks first in an argument. It is exactly like two people trying to carry one heavy table through a narrow doorway. If one person moves too fast or pulls in a different direction, bam, the table tilts and hits the wall. The problem isn't that the table is heavy. The problem is that you have to learn to coordinate all these daily decisions together, under pressure. You're bringing two complete life histories together. It's just like two rivers meeting. The flow permanently changes to include new values, new habits, and new loyalties. Think about it. One of you might come from a family where everyone is in everyone's business, sharing everything. The other might come from a family that fiercely guards their privacy and boundaries. These aren't just minor little preferences. They fundamentally shape the current of your new life together, and they dictate what each of you considers to be respectful or just plain normal. And this is exactly where we have to distinguish between love and readiness. Love is the healthy seed. We love the seed. But readiness is the soil. This is probably one of the biggest points of confusion for couples. They think because the seed of love is so strong, they are automatically ready for the realities of marriage. But here's the truth. If the soil of readiness is rocky or shallow or lacks the ability to negotiate differences, that beautiful little seed is going to have a really, really hard time growing. Because underneath the surface, daily friction reveals character. When things are calm and breezy, everyone presents their absolute best self. But when life stirs the cup, when plans suddenly change, when you're running on 2 hours of sleep, when the finances get uncomfortably tight, what dissolves into the water is what was actually there all along. Pressure and repetition don't invent new flaws, they merely bring your baseline traits right to the forefront. So when we look at marriage as this complete, interconnected system, we see a bunch of moving parts happening all at once. It's incredibly practical to map this terrain out. First, you've got your expectations, your beliefs about roles. These matter deeply because hidden assumptions create totally unnecessary conflict. Then there are decisions about money and time, requiring constant active coordination. We've also got family influence, your values and outside expectations. It's a great reminder that no couple starts from zero. You both bring some baggage. Then we look at daily habits. How do you speak to each other? How do you repair after a fight? This repetition literally shapes your relationship over time. Add in readiness, which is your emotional maturity providing the structure love needs to grow. And finally, pressure. from stress or life changes, which inevitably reveals the patterns you've built. That's the whole system right there. So you might be wondering, how does counseling actually build this clarity? Simple, by turning on the lights. Avoiding difficult topics doesn't create peace. It just keeps you stumbling around in the dark. Naming these vague feelings turns them into actionable understanding. Sure, you might still have to navigate around some heavy, awkward furniture in the room, but at least you aren't going to stub your toe, because you can finally see exactly where everything is placed. Counselors use very specific questions to slow couples down. In fact, ask yourselves right now, what happens in your home when people disagree? It's so easy to just breeze past a question like that, but when you really stop and answer it, you start to uncover the true architecture of your conflict resolution. Do you yell? Do you give the silent treatment? Do you just walk out of the room? What actually happens? You see, assumptions move blindly and quickly, but targeted questions move carefully. They check if the bridge we're building can actually carry real weight. Saying, oh, we'll figure it out later, feels great in the moment because it avoids tension altogether. But asking, wait, what exactly do we mean by that? Or what happens if we strongly disagree? That ensures that when the heavy weight of real life drives over your bridge, the whole thing doesn't just collapse. This whole process lets us find the live wires under the floorboards before we accidentally step on them blindly. A preference, like say wanting to make decisions quickly, that's easy to communicate and accommodate. But a pattern, like becoming highly controlling when you feel uncertain or completely withdrawing when you feel criticized, that is the actual live wire that is going to shape your daily reality. And ultimately, we need to realize that a counselor doesn't build the marriage for you. They can't do the push-ups for you. They simply provide accuracy so you can see your own internal maps and find healthy, thoughtful compromises. Think of them as just holding up a mirror so you can honestly see your own reflection, and maybe shining a flashlight into the dusty corners of family habits and expectations you didn't even realize you were carrying around. And when you do this, it creates a really beautiful transformation. Before counseling, couples usually rely on this generalized, kind of vague confidence. Yeah, we think we're aligned. During the process, they roll up their sleeves and do the hard work. Okay, let's actually name what we each mean. And then, after that clarity begins, they hit that powerful state. Wow, now we see the pressure point before it grows. It allows them to address a tiny crack before it ever becomes a full-blown crisis. This is the ultimate identity shift. It's so important to understand that counseling doesn't replace your commitment, and it certainly doesn't weaken the romance. What it does is give your love a sturdy, usable structure in the real world. You're no longer just crossing your fingers, closing your eyes, and hoping your feelings will carry you through. You are combining that deep, beautiful emotional certainty with practical, rock-solid, informed readiness. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Are you building your marriage by hoping hard enough, or by understanding each other clearly enough? Because a healthy marriage is built on understanding each other well enough to commit with your eyes wide open. Preparation isn't a lack of faith in your relationship. It's honestly the ultimate sign of respect for it. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you see the road ahead with absolute clarity.